minute, let me get me. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Every Day is a School Day with the Butterfly Princess. This week, I'm going to be discussing Lecture 9 entitled The Maccabean Revolt. This area forms part of the course entitled Jesus and His Jewish Influences, taught by Professor Jody Magnus. The first and second Maccabees are an intriguing part of an historical and religious narratives. These books are part of the Deuteronomical text. So the book of Deuteronomy forms part of is part of the 5 books of Moses that make up the Old Testament. It also means that they are included in some versions of the Bible, but not in other versions. They're also full of rich stories and interesting characters. First and second Maccabees offer a fascinating glimpse into the Jewish resistance against Greek influence and oppression that took place during the 2nd century BCE. First Maccabees, this book reads like an historical narrative, a history narrative that details the revolt led by Judas Maccabeus and his brothers against the Seleucid Empire, which sought to impose Hellenistic practices on Jewish culture. It's all about the bravery and struggles for religious freedom. Second Maccabees, on the other hand, is less historical and has a less historical narrative and has more of a theological narrative. This book focuses on themes such as martyrdom and religious integrity. It's not a continuation of First Maccabees, but rather a retelling of some events with a focus on moral lessons. It includes tales of heroism and sacrifice with strong emphasis on faith and divine interventions. Now, when we spoke last week about the Heliodoros affair, which was when Heliodoros wanted to go into the Jewish temple in Jerusalem and steal the treasures, he was prevented from doing that by divine intervention from some angels. So First Maccabees gives us a chronological account of the Jewish struggle for independence. The narrative kicks off with Antiochus IV, a ruler who tries to enforce Greek customs upon the Jewish people, leading to widespread discontent. Mattathias, a Jewish priest, sparks the revolt. His son Judas Maccabeus emerges as a first leader, masterminding battles and ultimately reclaiming Jerusalem, leading to the celebration of Hanukkah. Now, this is the Jewish festival of lights. Now it's important to note that there is a lot of festivals within Judaism that have a lot of spiritual and religious meaning, but the festival of Hanukkah, the Jewish festival of lights, is in actual fact is not a religious festival. This is a festival that celebrates the reclaiming of the Jewish temple and it's celebrated and remembered by lighting a 9-candled candle known as a menorah. This triumph highlights human resilience and the power of collective spirit fighting for their beliefs and traditions. It bears seeds of inspirational stories. Second Maccabees, on the other hand, is a bit of a spiritual biography. It delves into the emotional and ethnical struggles during the same period. Here, the tale places emphasis on Jewish faith, bravery, and martyrdom. Noteworthy are the accounts of Eleazar and the seven brothers who chose faith over life itself, offering a profound moral lessons on sacrifice and fidelity to one's belief. This version also showcases how personal integrity and faith can inspire generations adapting to fit the lens of values and ethics, almost like an analogy where courage nurtures hope during adversities. Antiochus IV was a fascinating character in the tapestry of ancient history. Antiochus IV was actually a child king of the Seleucid Empire. Unlike other Antiochus leaders, his reign was largely influenced by others due to his age, and we've seen this a lot throughout history, of course. One prime example would be that of the rule of Edward VI, who was the son of Henry VIII. When Henry VIII died, died, um, died, died, Edward VI was only a child of 9 years old, so he couldn't rule in his own right because, of course, he was still only a child at the time. So until he became of age, he had a council of rulers who ruled in his name and ruled for him until he became of age, and that was exactly the same in the case of Antiochus IV. He was the son of Alexander Base, and his journey begins with the death of his father. During his brief and tumultuous rule, he was a pawn in the power struggle of the time. His reign saw conflicts among various factions within the empire. This illustrated how power dynamics can shift suddenly. The real control was often exercised by military leaders. These were the military leaders of Alexander the Great. Now, we talked about this a bit last week when we talked about, what happened after Alexander's death, and how the Hanukkah affair came about, and how the empire of Alexander the Great was split between the Ptolemaic family and the Seleucid family. But we also heard about what happened to Roxana, the first wife of Alexander the Great, and their son, who was also called Alexander. Now, now they were sort of brought to protection under the mother of Alexander the Great, Olympias, but his son and his wife were eventually killed by the order of the fighters of Alexander the Great's fighters, because they wanted to rule themselves, and they saw his son and his wife as a threat to their route to power. Antiochus IV records of his reign don't frequently mention distinct, impactful decrees because he was quite young and his rule was influenced by others. Antiochus V was more of a figurehead during a time of intense struggles within the Seleucid Empire. However, his family's broader context, Antiochus V, as mentioned earlier, issued decrees provoking the Jewish population by enforcing Hellenistic practices. This cultural imposition sparked significant backlash, culminating in the Maccabean Revolt. The broader intrigue surrounding Antiochus V involves complex political manoeuvring rather than specific policy changes. It highlights the dynamics where controlling influence shape historical narratives, political scenes playing out with various factions jockeying for power. The decrees attributed to Antiochus V had quite a profound impact on the Jewish community, and understanding this context leads us to a layered narrative of faith, conflict, and resilience. Antiochus V's decrees aim to enforce Hellenistic culture, that's the spread of Greek culture, on the Jewish people, rather than Antiochus IV, who didn't have notable decrees due to his young age and brief rule. Antiochus V's decrees included prohibiting Jewish religious practices such as circumcision and dietary laws, and defining Jewish sacred sites such as the temple in Jerusalem with pagan rituals. These policies were meant to unify the region under Hellenistic culture, but rather than unifying the region, it split the region, and this incited a lot of unrest amongst the Jewish population, and this is what ultimately led to the Maccabean Revolt, which was a significant historical event demonstrating resilience and the fight for religious and cultural autonomy. It also paved the way for the rededication of the Second Temple and the celebration of Hanukkah, the Jewish festival of lights. Delving into the Maccabean Revolt, the characters involved are indeed fascinating and rich with flavour and dedication. So we have the characters involved in that play and made part in the Maccabean Revolt is Maccabeus, who was a revered Jewish priest. Maccabeus was the spark who ignited the flame of the revolt. Living in a town near Jerusalem, he opposed the Seleucid decrees and initiated the rebellion. He did this by refusing to confirm his bold leadership. His bold leadership motivated many to take a stand. The next character is Judas Maccabeus. He is often hailed as the hero of the revolt. Judas Maccabeus was one of the sons of Maccabeus, who took charge following his father's death. His name Maccabeus actually translates to the hammer. This reflects his strength and determination in tactical warfare strategies used to reclaim Jerusalem and cleanse the temple. Simon Maccabeus, now he is another character in the story, and he is another son of Maccabeus, and Simon played a crucial role in military and political leadership, contributing not just to battling efforts, but also to sustaining stabilising the region after the revolt. And then, of course, we have Antiochus V. These figures remind us that leadership and resilience can emerge under the most challenging circumstances, igniting movements that resonate for generations. Merging the Book of Daniel with the context of the Maccabean Revolt, this intersection is quite intriguing and offers much to contemplate. So we will talk more about the Book of Daniel next week when we talk about apocalyptic literature. The Book of Daniel, particularly the latter prophetic sections, is often seen by scholars as having strong connections to the period just before the Maccabean Revolt. While Daniel is set during the Babylonian exile, we've talked about that before, its themes and prophecies can resonate with those living during the latter Greek domination under Antiochus V. Prophetic symbolism. The visions in Daniel, like that of the statue with golden head and beasts with horns, Daniel chapters 7 to 8, are interpreted to align with historical empires. The fourth beast and the little horn are often connected with the Greek Empire, notably Antiochus V, whose actions foreshadow turmoil for the Jewish people. Perseverance and faith. Key elements within Daniel focus on standing firm in one's faith despite persecution and pressure, similar themes resonating during the Maccabean Revolt. Daniel's steadfastness against royal decrees mirrors the Jewish resistance against Antiochus V's decrees. Apocalyptic visions, which we will talk more about next week. Many regard Daniel's prophetic visions as a call to hope and divine justice, encouraging those oppressed during times such as the Maccabean Revolt to have faith in the ultimate divine victory and restoration. The Book of Daniel and the Maccabean Revolt both explore perseverance amidst trials and a profound connection between faith and identity. Hanukkah and the Maccabean Revolt are intertwining of history and celebration. This story is profoundly inspirational and steeped in tradition. Hanukkah, as I've already explained, is also known as the Festival of Lights, and this commemorates the rededication of the Second Temple in Jerusalem following the Maccabean Revolt. The Maccabean Revolt, as a reaction against Antiochus V's enforced Hellenization, Jewish forces led by the Maccabees rose against the Seleucid Empire, reclaiming their religious and cultural freedom. This military success culminated in retaking Jerusalem and the purification of the temple, a critical step in restoring Jewish worship practices. The miracle upon reclaiming the temple, the Maccabees found only enough consecrated oil to light the menorah for one day. Meticulously, this small amount lasted 8 days. That is why you see in the festival of Hanukkah now that they have a menorah, and each night they light a candle for 8 days, and this represents the burning of the oil in the reclaimed temple. Small amount lasted 8 days until new oil could be preserved. This symbolised diverse favour and endurance. This miracle is also celebrated during the Jewish festival of Hanukkah. Festival and traditions. Hanukkah involves lighting the menorah for 8 nights, games like spinning the dreidel and sharing food such as latkes and other. It's a time of joy, reflection and remembrance of perseverance and identity. Beyond celebration, Hanukkah inspires themes of hope and faith during adversity, celebrating the triumph of light over evil, or good over light over darkness, good over evil. The candlestick, more specifically known as the menorah, this sacred fixture is central to the Hanukkah celebrations and steeped in symbolism and historical significance. Design of the menorah. The Hanukkah menorah features 9 branches, 8 for each night of Hanukkah, and 1 additional branch known as the smashers or helper candle, used to light the others. In contrast, the menorah referenced in the Bible, found in the temple, had 7 branches. Symbolism. The menorah symbolises light overcoming darkness, reflecting the story of the miracle of the oil, where a small amount lasted for 8 days. This enduring light serves as a metaphor for resilience and divine providence. Ritual lighting. Each night of the Hanukkah celebrations, a candle is added and lit using the smash. This progression reinforces the idea of increasing light and joy, symbolising hope and spiritual growth. Cultural significance. Beyond its religious symbolism, the menorah represents Jewish identity and continuity amidst adversity, celebrating cultural survival and the triumph over oppression. Historic connections. The menorah is deeply rooted in Jewish tradition, echoing the ancient menorah that stood in the temple and serving as a reminder of Jewish resilience and heritage throughout history. Diving into literature that bridges the Bible and the especially chapters discussing reform, repression, revolt is a fascinating exploration into the social, political, and religious dynamics of the era. This period encompasses significant shifts in Jewish society, from Hellenistic influences to strong reform movements, leading to the Maccabean Revolt. Hellenistic influences. Following Alexander the Great conquest, Hellenism spread across the regions, which impacted social norms and religious practices. Many Jewish leaders faced eternal struggles balancing both tradition with these cultural changes. Jewish reform and resistance. There were efforts to adapt and reform religious practices to align with Hellenistic ideals. They often led to tensions as traditionalists resisted changes they viewed as contrary to their beliefs. Repression under Antiochus imposed harsh restrictions on the Jewish religious practices, leading to widespread repression and deepened resistance among Jews who sought to preserve their traditions. This persecution is famously depicted as the catalyst for major resistance accumulating into the Maccabean Revolt. We've already discussed what the Maccabean Revolt was. This literature provides valuable insights into the social and political and religious transformations that defined the era and profoundly impacted Jewish identity. The edict issued by Antiochus IV had wide-ranging consequences, massively impacting Jewish society and leading directly to significant political and social upheaval. Religious persecution. Antiochus IV issued directives that strictly prohibited Jewish religious practices, attempting to impose Hellenistic culture and worship, such as the worship of Greek gods. Key practices like circumcision, Sabbath observance, and dietary laws were banned. This led to a deeper cultural and spiritual crisis among the Jewish population. Cultural repression. The imposition of Hellenistic values meant cultural repression, stripping away Jewish identity and promoting traditional Jewish rituals and festivals were discounted in favour of Greek customs, sparking widespread dissent, revolt and resistance. The severity of Antiochus V's repressive measures catalysed the Maccabean Revolt. Jewish forces led by the Maccabees rose against the Seleucid authorities in a fierce struggle to reclaim their religious and cultural autonomy. Political outcomes. The successful revolt eventually led to the establishment of the Hasmonean dynasty, giving Jews a period of self-governance after securing autonomy from the Seleucid grip. This shifted the political landscape, making a triumph for Jewish resilience. Lasting effects. These events had long-lasting reformations, serving as a rallying cry for Jewish freedom and fueling narratives of resistance against oppression. The rededication of the temple celebrated during Hanukkah symbolises cultural and religious perseverance against adversity. Edict. So Jewish Antiochus issued decrees aimed at eradicating Jewish religious practices, Seleucid sacred customs, including circumcision, Sabbath observation, and dietary laws such as were banned. This was part of a wider effort to enforce Hellenistic culture. Discretion of the temple. The Second Temple was repurposed for pagan worship, with altars installed for sacrifices to Greek gods, particularly Zeus, who was the chief Greek god. This act of desecration deeply volatile, violated Jewish religious sentiments and was a focal point for raising anger and resistance. Cultural identity crisis. With religious entwined deeply with daily life and identity, these edicts threatened the very fabric of Jewish culture. Many Jews faced the dilemma of choosing between and risking persecution by adhering to their traditions. We've talked about valiant resistance. In the New Testament, particularly in Matthew verses 24, verse 15, and Mark chapter The term resurfaces. Jesus refers to upcoming events connected with the destruction of the Jewish temple, with the Jerusalem and the temple. It's a forewarning of intimate tribulation, suggesting moments of profound crisis and transformation. Symbolism and consequence. This sacrilege symbolizes not just physical desecration, but also deeper spiritual and communal upheaval, a time when reverence is tossed aside, promoting divine intervention. These texts invite readers to explore deeper spiritual and historical implications. So I've come up with my own story about the Maccabean Revolt, and this story is entitled "The Flame of Judea." In the heart of Judea, during a brisk autumn, young Miriam found herself standing amidst the rolling hills that overlooked her village. The shifting shadows of Antiochus V's reign loomed overhead, dimming the sunlight that should have bathed the land with warmth and serenity. Miriam, an earnest young girl known for her unwavering spirit, lived with her father, a scholar well versed in the sacred text. Her father would often whisper the tales of the temple's glory, now tarnished by foreign altars, a poignant reminder of their lost freedom. At the village gathering, tensions simmered beneath the surface. Jewish leaders, including the valiant Judah Maccabee, spoke passionately against the decrees that sought to erase their heritage. It was here that Miriam felt the first embers of rebellion ignite within her chest. Determined to aid the revolt, Miriam secretly crafted insights of hope, a simple flame adoring a polished stone. She distributed these stones among the villagers, each one bearing the promises of each one bearing the promise of light conquering darkness. Her small acts became whispers of unity, courage, clutched in the hands of those who dared to defy oppression. One chilly evening, as Miriam prepared to hide her crafted flame beneath the cloak of night, she overheard plans, a strategic move to reclaim sacred ground. Judah's forces posed to strike at dawn, standing with strength and faith, unable to contain her favour. Miriam resolved to stand by her people. In the dawn mist, the Maccabees charged forth. Miriam, cloaked in a valiant wielding a makeshift torch, lighting the path, the flame of Judea. Her flame, a symbol of defiance, flickered brightly against the twisted fate. Victory came, the rededication of the temple followed, and as the oil burned for 8 miraculous days, tales of Miriam's flame spread, a testament to courage's power amidst the darkest hours. In the warmth of communion, Miriam found solace, knowing her flame helped kindle the legacy of hope, a departure from fleeting shadows towards a canvas painting with promise and freedom. And I've also come up with my own story set about the time of Hanukkah. This story is called The Light Keeper. In the quiet village of Modling, nestled amidst olive groves that shimmered under the moon's gentle glow, lived a young boy named Isaac. With his curly hair and curious eyes, was fascinated by the stories his grandfather recounted every evening, stories of bravery and miracles. As Hanukkah approached, the air was thick with anticipation. Isaac watched as his village prepared for the Festival of Lights. Everyone bustling with excitement, exchanging whispers about the miracle of the oil that burned for 8 days. The saints wafted through the air, mingling with laughter and song. Isaac cherished these moments, for in them lay the spirit of his ancestors, the Maccabees, who fought valiantly to reclaim their sacred space and the miraculous light that rekindled hope. Yet deep in his heart, Isaac felt a longing to contribute to keeping the flame alive, not just in the menorah, but within the hearts of his beloved village. With determination, Isaac crafted lanterns from sturdy clay, each adorned with intricate carvings inspired by his great-grandfather's tales. He envisaged them as beacons of hope, guiding souls through the festival with warmth and splendour. On the first evening of Hanukkah, Isaac set forth with his lanterns, visiting each home with a heartfelt blessing. May this light inspire courage in the trials we face and grace in the love we share. He whispered earnestly, leaving a lantern to illuminate each doorstep. As the menorah's light shimmered against the night sky, Isaac's lanterns mirrored their glow, creating a tapestry of radiance across Magdalene families gathered around the menorahs, recounting stories of struggle and triumph, their voices harmonizing in gratitude and faith. Isaac perched beside his grandfather, smiled as he watched the light dance across their faces. Each flicker carried his intent, every lantern a testament to resilience, carrying forward the legacy of Hanukkah's miracle. When the final candle was lit, Isaac realised his small act had bloomed into a tradition. Every Hanukkah henceforth, villagers would craft their own lanterns, weaving unity through the strands of shared light and history. So that is my own made-up story about Hanukkah, but this now is the real story of Hanukkah. The origins of Hanukkah traces back to the tumultuous period of the 2nd century BCE, during the reign of the Seleucid king Antiochus IV, over the region of Judea. Antiochus sought to impose Hellenistic culture, suppressing Jewish religious practices and discrediting the Second Temple by erecting pagan altars. Amidst harrowing oppression, the Jewish people longed to reclaim their identity and faith. It was during this period that the courageous Maccabee family, led by Judas Maccabee, emerged as a pivotal figure, championing the cause of resistance against the Seleucid forces. The Macabean Revolt was marked by strategic warfare with Judah Maccabee and his followers, demonstrating remarkable territories and faith in their press to restore religious freedoms. Against seemingly overwhelming odds, they recaptured Jerusalem and purified the temple. Following the rededication of the temple, a single vial of consecrated oil was discovered, enough to light the temple's menorah for just one day. However, in what is celebrated as a miraculous event, the oil continued to burn for a period of 8 days. This was a symbolisation of divine providence, referring the resilience of the Jewish spirit. The miracle of the oil established the foundations for the Festival of Light, which is known today as Hanukkah. It is celebrated by lighting the menorah for 8 consecutive nights. With each flicker, it commemorates the triumph of light over darkness, faith over persecution, and unity in adversity. Hanukkah anticipates not only a historical victory, but also serves as a testament to courage, the enduring power of faith and the spirit of perseverance embraced by the people of Judah. So next, before we finish, I'm going to tell you the real story of the Maccabean Revolt. The Maccabean Revolt erupted in the 2nd century BC, during a period where Judah was under the control of the Seleucid Empire. Antiochus IV, the Seleucid king, set forth a campaign to Hellenize the region, suppressing Jewish traditions and enforcing pagan worship within the temple in Jerusalem. Faced with such constant persecution, despair stirred within the Jewish community. A notable figure by the name of Matthias, the Hasmonean, spearheaded the revolt after defining an edict to perform a pagan sacrifice. This act of defiance symbolised the spark of resistance within the Jewish faith. Following Matthias' death, his son Judah Maccabee assumed leadership, orchestrating a strategic revolt with warfare tactics. His valiant and astute military strategies led to astonishing victories against the well-equipped Seleucid army, rekindling hope among the masses. As the revolt intensified, the Maccabees successfully reclaimed Jerusalem and cleansed the temple, removing pagan symbols and restoring Jewish worship. The act of restoration empowered the Jewish people, resonating their cultural identity and freedom. A pivotal moment came with the rededication of the temple. The discovery of a single vial of oil, enough for only one day, miraculously burning for 8 days, marked the event, with divine affirmation and miracles celebrated annually with Hanukkah. The Maccabean Revolt signified more than just a military victory. It was a profound statement of faith, resilience, and of the fight for cultural preservation. The revolt extended to establish the Hasmonean dynasty, representing independence from foreign rule and a renowned autonomy. And that then concludes this week's episode of An Extra Slice of History of Everyday School Day with the Butterfly Princess. Hope you can join me next time for next week's episode. But until then, have a lovely rest of your week, and I will see you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye for now.